Hey everyone, welcome back to Valheim. This is Beeblebum. We are at the B-side, and today I want to talk about terrain manipulation in Valheim. Now, terrain manipulation is a really handy mechanic if you want to build yourself some support pillars, if you want to build yourself impenetrable walls, or even if you want to build yourself just an island in the middle of the sea that is totally safe from raids or any attacks, at least from land. Now, before we jump into the tips and tricks, I do want to talk a bit about some things you should know before we do that. Now, first of all, there are 3 tools that will allow you to do terrain manipulation, which is the pickaxe, the hoe, and the cultivator. Another basic knowledge you should know. Terrain manipulation has a hard limit, which means you cannot dig lower than a certain point or you won't be able to rise higher than a certain point. Now, the hard limit is 8 meters down and 8 meters up. So if you wish to, you will be able to make a difference of 16 meters. Now, this hard limit follows the terrain that is existing, the native terrain. That means if you would be digging or raising the mountain, that you will see that once you reach that limit, it will follow the same curve of that mountain. That means if you want to level this out, you will have to find either the lowest or the highest point, depending a bit if you were raising or lowering the terrain. Now, if you're looking into building walls with sharp edges, you also need to be aware of the direction where terrain is forming. There is only 6 directions where the terrain will create a sharp edge. That is north, east, south, west, and then 2 directions, which is north, west, and southeast. So let's just dig a hole here so you can see what I mean. As you can see, I have my character aiming to the north so that when I'm mining down, you will see I'm going to start creating 4 sharp edges like this. And as you can see, I'm starting to create these 4 sides in the cardinal directions. But let me just open up the area a little bit more, make a bigger hole, so you can also see the diagonal lines. There you go. So now you can see all of the directions where you will line up. So we can see here we have north. This is the northwest southeast line. And of course then the 4 cardinal directions. So let's start with building a little terrain upwards and make sharp edges there and do the same on the bottom so we can just understand how you can create these sharp edges. So let's just go to our hoe, and the hoe right here will have 4 options. So if you right click on your mouse, you will get 4 options here, which is level terrain, raise ground, pattern, and paved road. Now, this is something you only would get later on if you have the stone cutter. Before that, you won't be able to do that. All right, so this means now let's start building a little raised floor. So we're going to select raised ground, and we're just going to locate you can see the animation there. It looks as if it's raising the terrain, the circles going up. We're going to locate that right below us. So you can actually just raise the terrain where you stand. And you can see that it's now starting to raise the terrain underneath you. Now, it will start making these edges, which is going to make you fall off. If that happens, you can always quickly level like that and then raise ground, so you have a little bit more of a flat area to stand on. I'm just going to make a little bit of a terrain here. Let's just raise the terrain. Now, raising terrain is going to cost you 2 stone per raise. That means that if you would, for example, raise 8 meters, that means 16 stones. Also, of course, it uses stamina, which is also a bit of a pain, but... So we have kind of created a rock. Let's see if I can raise this a little bit. Here. So we want to make a terrain a little bit level. So there's a little bit of a pit here, you can see. I'm just going to add a little bit in there. And we're going to go to a leveler. And we're going to look for the lowest points or the point you want to level on. And now you can see there's like this animation again, very similar as we would raise the floor, but now it's just like leveling, it's flat. I can just level this terrain on the point where I'm standing. So where I'm standing right here, this is the level I'm going for. So you can see I'm starting to flatten this terrain pretty well. This will probably not work 100%, so we'll have to do some adjustments later on, but let's see if we can keep on flattening this. So we have a bit of a bump there. Let's see if I can walk to the other side and level it a little bit more. So we're getting nice and flat. You can see we do have a bump there. We have a bump here, so I'm going to go to my pickaxe. We're going to axe this away. Just a little tap. That should be able to flatten. And this has to go as well. Making sure that we don't have too much extra terrain sticking out. There we go. So now we go back to our hoe. And now we can flatten it again. And that should normally flatten the terrain completely. There we go. So this is pretty nice and level. Now what you might have noticed is if you level the terrain on the edge, for example, you'll see it's going to start forming some terrain on the side here as well. And that kind of ruins the sharp edge you want to have. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to clean up the edge now. So let's take our pickaxe. Let's go down. And let's say we want to have a sharp edge here. This edge, we want to keep this edge. So this has to go. Now you will kind of notice that the terrain is forming in a grid. So that means if I want to keep this sharp edge, I should mine here somewhere. Just on, you see this line? I should mine this line away. So I'm just going to mine, and that is going to delete terrain and it's going to create this sharp edge. So I'm going to go a little bit lower like that. And we're just going to keep on mining this whole area away. Be careful, don't mine here, otherwise you're going to make a gap in the wall. So we just want to remove that piece on the corner. Like that. So we have one sharp edge. We can do the same here. That's the edge. Here you can see we have this little bump, a little bit of a line. We're going to mine this away. So I'm going to mine this line again. And we have one more. This seems to be a little bit too sharp. We want it to have a little bit down. So I think if we mine here, that should normally clean the edge up. See? So we're just going to follow this line here and clean up the edge of that terrain. Now, if you make a mistake, if you have like a gap in your wall, you just jump up again, fill up the terrain again, and then just clean up the edge once again. So now we have a nice looking cube, which is nice and high. That means that if we build on here, nothing is going to really be able to attack us, except for, of course, trolls. If you have a troll raid, or if you have flying creatures or whatever, these will be able to reach you as well. But here you are pretty safe as well. You could, of course, make yourself a wall like that. Then even trolls won't be able to reach the center point. Then you only need to worry about flying creatures. All right, so the same can be done in the ground. So if I want to dig a hole in the ground, I'm just going to go all the way down. Let's go down until we have a good, decent amount of wall like that. You can see we have our edges. So if I would chop here, on this line, you will see that the terrain is going to move inwards. See, it just made that gap. So you have to be careful. If we want to remove the line, if we want to move this piece, we need to chop on this line. Don't chop here, don't chop here. You have to chop on this line right here. All right, so just chop here, and that is going to create a nice sharp edge. All right, we're going to go a little bit forward. Let's make a little bit the same size of terrain here. Like that. There we go. So now we have a nice straight pit. That is now nice and sharp. That means if you would throw creatures in here, if you want to push your wolves or whatever in here, they won't be able to get out because they don't have the, they cannot pathfind themselves out of that. So this is, the sharp edges really protect or help you keeping creatures inside a location. Okay, so the next thing I would like to show you is how to create smooth paths. Let's go to the hoe again. And let's make a raised ground. I'm going to make 2 lines. So let's, one here. Let's go 2 here. Let's go 3 here. And let's go 4 here. All right, so we have this nice step terrain. I'm going to do the same here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have the same kind of terrain here. I might actually have to fill up this this gap a bit. There. All right. All right. So if I now go to level terrain, level ground, you will see that if I now want to level this, if I go on here and I level that, you will see you will kind of flatten everything. See? It doesn't make that nice smooth ramp you would like to do. It just kind of flattens everything and it doesn't really make a nice line. Now there is a little trick you can do, and that is by pressing Shift. Now if you look at the animation right here, I'm trying to find a position where we can actually see the difference. There we go. Now if you look at the animation right here and I press Shift, you will notice that the animation changes. You see here, the animation completely levels with the terrain. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to press Shift and I'm going to aim my cursor at the piece on top. Not here, here. So I'm going to level it like that while I'm pressing Shift. And we're going to move forward. Do this again and move forward. Do this again. Now, as you can see, I'm creating a very nice smooth area. So now I can do this over and just walk, and you can see how nice and smooth this is. Now, finally, we're just going to talk about the cultivator and the hoe. Now, these also have a few extra options. You will see that you have a paved road. This is only once you unlock the stone cutter that you will be able to do this. So the paved road, what it's going to do is going to actually replace the terrain with a paved looking road. Now, if you're not careful, and I'll show you what happens. So this is similar as you would be doing a leveling. So if I place that, it now brings like a stone paved road like that. Now, if you're not careful and you do this on the side here, you will see that this is going to round up this side. If you place it here, see what happens? So if you're doing this too close to the terrain of a sharp edge, it will cut off this corner and level this with it. So you have to be careful if you do this too closely, that is going to happen. Or what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to prepare first your terrain and then sharpen up everything once you're done and happy with it. The same is going to happen here. If I place it here, you'll see it starts rounding the corners off. So you will have the sharp edge will be disappearing. So this is the paved road, which is very clean, very nice. I like the design of this. I hope they bring some new designs in the future, you know, like a brick floor or whatever, we'll see. Anyway, the next one is pattern, which is actually the same as you would be leveling the ground. This is going to allow you to create a path. And what it's going to do, this is just going to follow the terrain. So it's just creating a small pathway between builds or whatever. All right, now the next thing I want to show you is the cultivator. And the cultivator allows you to change the look of the terrain in two ways. You can either use cultivate, which is going to make the terrain darker. Normally you use this for planting. So only in this ground you will be able to plant your seeds. But on the other hand, you can use this as a, a terrain color. If you want to change something in a certain color, you can do that. You can control the color of your stone if you want to. Pretty handy as well. The next one we have grass, which is going to allow you to regrow the grass you see here. So it's going to restore the vegetation where you're at. So if you, for example, are at the meadows, it will restore the grass. If you're in the mountains, it will restore the snow, and so on. Also, if you, for example, are in the water, you will be able to restore lily pads or even grow some lily pads if you raise the terrain. That's all possible. You can apply the grass also on your created hills and mountains, and it will not change your terrain at all. So it's not going to cut away the sharp edges. It's going to leave everything as it was. The cultivator, however, will damage your sharp edges and your corners, so you'll have to be careful with that. But that's going to be it for me today. This is how I use terrain manipulation in Valheim. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was informative and gives you a bit of an idea of how things work and how you can manipulate the terrain to your advantage. If you like this video, then don't forget to hit that thumbs up on your way out, and I will see you again next time. This was Beeblebum. Goodbye for now.